Uh, I had only been a platoon sergeant for probably 2 weeks after we hit the beach, and I didn't have an officer in my platoon, so I was actually in charge. Well, we got to a place where we stopped one night. It was about getting dark, about 8 o'clock, and this was in France. And so the company commander called me, and he said, Zebert, I want your platoon to lead. We're going to make an overnight drive to get into this town that was through the hills a little bit. Well, I had been on, previously, I'd been on one-night patrols, so I knew a little bit about the hills and the countryside and stuff like that, because it was just 2 weeks before that. And so he laid the map down. He showed me the map and what to do in that. And he says, you get the choice of taking the road or else going through the field. And I realized it was shorter going through the field, and he demanded that I leave and the company would follow my platoon. We all went single file at that through this thing. And he said, but I want you in that town before daylight. But he didn't tell me why. And so this put me in a spot, and he made it real, he just made it very clear that I had to drive pretty hard to get in that town. So I did. I kept pushing all night. I had a German compass in my hand that I could walk in it. I could walk with it in my hand and my gun in the other hand. And it got to about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I could see it was going to start to get light, and I was getting worried because I thought, boy, he said be in town, and of course I didn't know the name of the town or anything, but I knew that the town was there, and I knew I was following a compass, the only way I could get there, because I didn't want to take the road. And so all of a sudden I hear a rooster crow that morning, and I knew I was very close to the town. I just had to make a kind of a half left, and I started going a little faster then, and of course the platoon was all behind me. And I got to the road going into town. This is the same one that I would have walked in before, but I chose a field because I liked the shorter route. Plus, I thought I had better protection in the field. And so we got to the road, and I see there was a slight ditch on each side of the road. And so I said to passed the word back to each one of them that each one get on the other side of the road, so we got half on each side of the road, and we're going right into town. Well, we didn't go, I don't think we got in position, and we headed up the road, and we didn't go very far, and all of a sudden I could hear the Germans marching out in cadence, coming down this road. I couldn't see the town, but I could hear them marching out. So I said to my first scout, I said, he could talk real good German, that's why I had him there, and I said, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to stop these guys, and I want you to talk to them after I do that. So I left them get within 15 feet of where I was. I jumped out in the road and I hollered, halt, with the best German accent that I could use. And the officer in charge said, well, it was just clup, clup when I hollered halt. They were right in cadence. And the German officer said, was ist los, or what is wrong? And I said, American soldiers surrender. And then my scout took over. His name was Fellbaum, very good German-speaking person. And he was told to tell them to drop their weapons and fold their hands over the head, and we'll march back, which they did. They didn't give us a bit of trouble. And this was the infantry group that was going out to guard their positions. Then the next group had to be I don't know just what group that was, but there was 25 in the first group. There was 25 in the second group that come out. And they were probably manning the guns, or they had their jobs to do. And they walked out the same way in cadence and that, and we stopped them the same way, and they surrendered without a shot. And, of course, it would have been murder if they didn't, but they probably were smart enough to know that. And so then they kept on going, and it was done so quietly that when the third one come out, we caught them the same way, and we got all 75 without firing one shot that day. And it was surprising. The tanks we always had 2 tanks with us in our company, and they came into town. They took the roads. They came into the town a half hour later, Well, they travel much slower. They had to have some infantry with them because tanks don't go out ahead of infantry, especially on the road, because they're too vulnerable. So they came into town about a half hour later, and they said that all the gun positions were left open, and I to this day don't know why they didn't have guards there overnight. They may have had guards, but probably hearing the tanks coming, these guards took off, I suspect. But anyway, we got 75 prisoners, and there was not one shot fired.